In this week's lesson, we're going to learn how to turn a scale from sounding like this
boring
into this.
Nice.
So this lesson is for anyone that's never really improvised before, or maybe you've been improvising but you're feeling frustrated, you're not really getting the sounds you want. What I've created here is a step-by-step process where we start with just a normal, typical scale that you might learn, and we're going to gradually introduce more and more degrees of freedom where you can start to be more creative and it starts to sound less and less like a boring scale and more like a piece of music. Now, this process works with any scale, but today we're going to use the concert C minor pentatonic. Don't worry about if you don't understand what those labels mean. The group of notes are below. So for alto saxophones, we play A minor pentatonic, and the notes we've got are A, C, D, E and G. And for tenor saxophones, that's going to be D, F, G, A and C. So step one is to learn this scale, and we're going to use three basic speeds. We're going to use half notes, quarter notes and eighth notes. Again, don't worry if you don't read music, that's fine. You'll be able to pick this up by ear. So I'll play the scale at half notes first of all. I'll count to 4 and then feel free to join in with me. So this is the basic drum beat that we're going to play over the top of. And we'll go after 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so next up we're going to do quarter notes, which means one note per beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to use eighth notes and it's going to be double the speed. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we get to step 2 now. We're going to mix these rhythms. You can use a mix of quarters, halves, whole notes, eighth notes. You could try using some offbeat rhythms as well. Just try to make whatever you play fit with that drum groove. So I'll give you a quick example of what I mean. What we're going to do is go up and down that scale, but change the rhythms now, so it's not going to be constant. Okay, so step 3 is we're now going to add in some repeated notes. So you can repeat any note any number of times. So as you can see, as we're adding in more degrees of freedom, it's starting to sound more and more like a piece of music. The next step is to change direction. Now, that doesn't mean jump. So say you're going up and you're on the 3rd note of the scale. You can either go to the 2nd note or the 4th note, or repeat that 3rd note. But you couldn't say for now jump from number 3 right down to number 1. So now I'm going to start to expand the scale. So I'll still start on that 1st note of the scale, but this time I'm going to go higher, and when I come down, I'm going to go down past my starting note because I've got a few notes lower that I can go to. Now, this is obviously different depending on what instrument you're on, but try and explore those 5 notes, but keep going as high as you can and take the scale down as low as you can. Okay, the next step is you want to change your starting note. You don't always want to be locked into that 1st note of the scale, which is a really common thing that people, when they're starting out improvising, because they learnt the scale from there, that's the one they always feel safest with. So make it a rule in this step that you're not allowed to start with that 1st note, and try starting all over the range of the instrument. Middle, high, start right down low, and it's going to give you loads of different ideas. Again, though, we're still just moving step by step, so no jumping around the scale. If you're down on a bottom note, which is say the 4th note of the scale, then you could go up to number 5 or you could go down to number 3. The next step is where we're starting to put this in a bit more of a musical context. We've already got the rhythm underneath us with the drums, but often you're going to be playing over a song or some kind of form. And the most common thing that happens when people are improvising is they tend to get lost because they're so focused on the notes and keeping in time that they kind of forget where they are within the form. So I think the best way to start with this is with a 2-bar phrase, because this is the most common phrase length, especially for nice simple songs. It's nearly always grouped in 2-bar chunks. So what we'll do now is we'll do like a call and response. I'll play for 2 bars and I'll rest for 2 bars, and in those 2 bars you can fill in on your end, and we'll go back and forth a few times so you can get a sense of how long 2 bars feels. So I'll do the first phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so the next step is to start to link together some 2-bar phrases, and in this step you can start to use your imagination in how you want the phrase to sound. So something really simple could be, okay, the first phrase I want to do is a phrase that goes up, and the second phrase I want to do is a phrase that comes down. So that could sound something like this. Now I've got a link in the description which has a worksheet with all of these steps written out that you can print off. Now these steps are universal, they can apply to not only any scale but just a collection of notes. I'm also going to leave the drum loop playing at the end of this track so you can get going practicing straight away, and this drum loop is also available to download in that link below.